Right. Hello, everyone. My name is Sadiq Aliyu. I'm a PhD student at the University of Lausanne, and thank you so much for attending our talk on the role and form of personal information disclosure in cyberbullying incident. I conducted this work with Kavus Niskirat, Kevin Huguenin, and Mauro Cherubini. So to begin with, we all know that cyberbullying happens when we use instant messaging apps or social networking platforms to intimidate, harass, or threaten someone. We also know that disclosing personal information about ourselves on social media platforms can be used to fuel cyberbullying, and this is known as self-disclosure. Now, these two phenomena have some serious consequences on the users, which include depression, anxiety, and in extreme cases, even suicidal ideation. We identified 4 different ways in which individuals' personal information can be used against them. And as you can see on the figure, this is a victim who captures his personal information, and in this case, a picture, and shares it directly to an attacker. And another way is when the victim captures the same information and shares with his friends, relatives, or even strangers. And then we call this group of people disclosers. And the disclosers relay the information to the attacker. Also, the disclosers can capture the information directly, not through the victim. And the same with the attacker. In all cases, this information can be used against the victim for cyberbullying purposes. Now, we know that disclosing personal information about ourselves can predict the incident of cyberbullying, but do we know if disclosing personal information about others can also predict cyberbullying? And what are the similarities and differences of information disclosure activities in countries with different culture and economic background, namely the United States and Nigeria? To answer this question, our work focused on how cyberbullying rely on information disclosure, and what are the types of personal information that are used in the incident. What are the roles of different stakeholders that are involved, such as the victims, the disclosers, the attackers, and what are the paths, such as the origin of the information, the relays, and the destination of the personal information used for the incident. Again, we also want to understand the role of the third-party disclosure in the incident and the existing strategies used by the stakeholders to reduce the incident. In order to do this, we deployed a large-scale survey using the critical incident technique among 3,939 respondents. We used the critical incident technique to specifically identify where the incident happened. For example, is it a social networking or gaming platform? And what is the specific platform? The type of content, e.g. image, videos, memes, or screenshot. And how does the incident happen? Is it through post, comment, or direct message? And finally, who are involved? Is it a partner, a relative, a friend, or a stranger? We deployed our study in US online through a vendor called Dinata. And we choose this vendor because they have access to underage pool of respondents. While in Nigeria, it was difficult to deploy a survey online, so we collaborated with the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, and they assigned 9 different enumerators who collected data offline for us from 9 different higher education institutions. In US, we collected over 3,000 data, but only 918 had cyberbullying experience and therefore included. While in Nigeria, we collected over 900 data, but only 637 reported having cyberbullying experience and were included. So overall, we included 1,555 respondents in our analysis. And these 1,555 respondents, 60% of them identified as victims, and over 22% identified as disclosures, and 16% as attackers. So one of the similarities of this incident from the two countries is the rate. For example, victims in the two countries are similar, but slightly higher in the United States, while disclosures are also similar, but slightly higher with 5% in Nigeria. And among the differences, one of the differences is the rate of cyberbullying incident in the two countries. As you can see, the incident of cyberbullying in Nigeria is significantly high, with almost 70%, which is double compared to the incident of compared to the United States. And this may be because of the different laws and programs that are put in place in the United States to prevent cyberbullying and to also educate people on responsible online behavior. And these laws and programs are non-existent in Nigeria. This rate also reflected on the victimization experience in the two countries. In Nigeria, victimization using memes, photos, or screenshot is also double compared to the United States. Again, in the United States, in general, respondents are more familiar with consensual information disclosure compared to Nigeria. And this is maybe because of the programs that educate them on consensual information disclosure and all. In Nigeria, the number of attackers that leverage personal information of victims for cyberbullying is also double or more than double compared to the United States. So respondents who identified as disclosures, so disclosures are not the attackers, but they are like a middle person who facilitated the disclosure of information from the victims to the attacker. So we asked them the relationship between them and the victims. And most of the disclosures stated that they disclose information about their friends. And this is also significantly higher in Nigeria compared to the United States. When we asked them the reason for such disclosure, many of them stated reason related to community, politics, and health. And one of the disclosures in Nigeria stated that he disclosed information about his friends in the interest of public health. Another difference we found from the two countries is the level of self-awareness on the consequences of cyberbullying incident that is fueled by the disclosure of personal information. Most respondents in the US are familiar that this incident can cause mental health related issues to victims, such as depression and anxiety. While in Nigeria, they are mostly concerned on the consequences it will cause on the reputation of the victim's family. And one disclosure in Nigeria said that the victim can be a subject of gossip and it may damage the reputation of his family. Another difference is on the different prevention strategies they use in reducing the incident of cyberbullying. So respondents in the US are more familiar with a solution that is provided by social media companies, such as blocking, reporting, or deleting toxic friends. And this is also shown in a response of one of the victims in the US, where he mentioned deleting and blocking someone. While in Nigeria, they mostly rely on offline solutions, such as reporting to authorities, community leaders, or schools. So what are the implications of our study? We identified 3 implications. The first one is design, the second one is policy, and the third one is the technical solution. So engaging these 3 different stakeholders in a design activities in order to design solutions that will prevent them from this information disclosure, 3-step process of information disclosure is very important. And the second one is a specific law or policy, especially in Nigeria, where the rate of cyberbullying is very high. I think is also very important. While the third is the need for a technical solution from the social media platforms in order to track and possibly block the relaying of personal information among these 3 stakeholders. So finally, what are the key takeaways from our study? The first one is that the people we trust can intentionally or unintentionally misuse our personal information, which can be used against us. And also, both offline solution and online solution are effective in preventing cyberbullying, but depending on the users and their surrounding environment. And finally, there is a need to raise awareness on the causes and effect, and also the different roles of the stakeholder in the incident of cyberbullying, fueled by the disclosure of personal information. And thank you so much for attending the talk, and I will be very happy to take questions.
Thank you so much, Sadiq, for your talk. We have several questions in the chat. The first one is about what was the common relationship between victims and attackers? Are they friends, acquaintances, or are they online friends or even strangers?
So we asked the victims' relationship between them, and most of them identified friends, strangers, and also relatives. And we also asked the disclosers the relationship between them and the victims. But we did not ask disclosers the relationship between them and attacker. So we asked victims the relationship between them and disclosers and the relationship between them and attacker.
Okay, thank you. And then we have another question about how robust is the conclusion that difference in incidence between US and Nigeria is due to educational program and not due to other factors such as sampling bias and confounding or causal explanations?
Yeah, so during the literature review, we identified several programs in the United States that are in currently existence, that in schools, and there are programs that also bring parents in raising awareness of cyberbullying and in general promoting responsible online behavior. But in Nigeria, we could not identify any literature that suggests these programs exist. And also in the United States, I think there is, even though there is no specific federal law that addresses cyberbullying, but each state have a law that is specifically addressing the incident of cyberbullying. While in Nigeria, there is no federal and also state law that look at the issue of cyberbullying particularly.
Okay, thank you. And then another question also along the line of comparison. Can you calibrate what the intuitive notions in the different cultures are? For instance, what counts as friend, what counts as bullying, what the cultural effects can have on the family and potential disadvantages in the different cultures?
Can you rephrase the question a bit?
I think the question is asking just how does cultural differences play a role in your study based on your speculation? Yeah,
so we look at the time they spend online and access to internet, access to social media, and in general, the internet penetration in the two countries. So we found that even though the penetration of internet in the US is almost 90-something%, whereas in Nigeria it is below 50%, respondents in Nigeria spend more time on the internet, on average more than 4 hours a day, compared to the United States. So, but we did not particularly look at the specific cultural factors that may be related to the incident.
Okay, and then one final question. Is the demographic information of respondents, such as age and gender, similar in your sample from US and Nigeria?
Yeah, so we recruited people from the age of 13 to 60 in both countries, but we realized that where respondents in the US who are between 13 to 17 have a very high incident rate of cyberbullying. In Nigeria, respondents among this age group do not report having cyberbullying as much as people from 18 to 34. And that is because in US, people are allowed to use phone from the age of 14, but in Nigeria, the legally recommended age is 17. So you have less people who use phone in between that age compared to the United States, and that is also reflected on the rate of cyberbullying in that age group.
Okay, thank you so much, Sadiq.